The gift of freedom. The dust hung heavy in the afternoon air of Millbrook's town square, dancing lazily in the golden sunbeams that filtered through the gaps between weathered buildings. It was auction day, and the usual crowd had gathered, ranchers with calloused hands and sun-weathered faces, merchants counting coins in their pockets, and curious townspeople drawn by the spectacle. Sarah sat on the wooden platform, her body still aching from the birth just 3 days prior. The baby in her arms was so small, so fragile, that she barely dared to breathe for fear of disturbing his peaceful sleep. Her dress was simple and worn, patched in places where the fabric had given way to years of hard living. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her long brown hair fell in gentle waves around her shoulders, framing a face marked by exhaustion and worry. She had never imagined this moment would come. Just a week ago, she had been working in the kitchen of the boarding house, saving every penny she could, dreaming of a different life for herself and the child she carried. But when the baby came early, and the medical bills mounted, and her employer discovered her situation, everything changed. The debt collector had been clear: either she found a way to pay what she owed, or she would be sold to cover the costs. Now here she sat, holding her newborn son, waiting for someone to decide her fate. The auctioneer, a thin man with a voice like gravel, called for attention. "Next up, we have Sarah here, age 22, good with cooking and cleaning, comes with the infant." His words cut through her like a knife. She wasn't a person to him, just another item to be sold, another problem to be solved with the right amount of money. The bidding started low. A few rough-looking men called out numbers, their eyes calculating as they assessed what kind of work they might get from her. Sarah clutched her baby closer, whispering soft words of comfort more to herself than to the sleeping child. That's when she noticed him. He stood apart from the crowd, leaning against a wooden post with his arms crossed. Tall and broad-shouldered, he wore a well-tailored gray coat over dark pants, and a wide-brimmed hat that cast shadows across his face. But what struck her most was the way he was looking at her, not with the cold calculation of the other bidders, but with something that looked almost like concern. As the bidding continued, climbing higher with each call, the rancher remained silent. Sarah found herself stealing glances at him, wondering what he was thinking. Most of the men bidding seemed interested only in what labor they could extract from her. But this one was different. When the price reached an amount that made several bidders shake their heads and walk away, the rancher finally spoke. His voice was steady and clear, cutting through the murmur of the crowd. $500. The square fell silent. It was more than double the highest bid, more than anyone had expected. The auctioneer's eyebrows shot up, and he looked around to see if anyone would counter. When no one spoke, he brought down his gavel with a decisive crack. "Sold to the gentleman in gray." Sarah's heart pounded as the rancher approached the platform. Up close, she could see he had kind eyes, brown like rich coffee, with lines at the corners that spoke of years spent squinting into the sun. He was older than her, perhaps in his 30s, with dark hair visible beneath his hat and a neatly trimmed beard. "Ma'am," he said quietly, tipping his hat. "My name is James Mitchell. I have a ranch about 10 miles west of town." He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "I want you to know that I didn't buy you to work for me." Sarah stared at him, confusion clouding her tired mind. "I don't understand." James glanced around at the dispersing crowd, then back at her. "What I mean is, you're free to go wherever you choose. I paid your debt, but I don't own you. Nobody should own another person." The baby stirred in her arms, making tiny sounds that tugged at her heart. Why? She whispered. I lost my wife last year, James said simply. Maria died in childbirth, along with our son. When I saw you up there, holding your baby. He trailed off, clearing his throat. I couldn't stand by and watch someone else decide your fate for you. Sarah felt tears prick at her eyes. I have nowhere to go. No money, no family. That's where I'd like to make you an offer, James said. My ranch needs a housekeeper. The job comes with a small cabin of your own, meals, and a fair wage. You'd be an employee, not a servant. You could save money, make your own choices about your future. He looked down at the baby. What's his name? Thomas, Sarah said softly. His name is Thomas. Thomas would be welcome too, of course. There's plenty of room, and I could use the sound of a child's laughter around the place again. As they walked away from the auction platform, Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced in months: hope. The afternoon sun painted everything in warm, golden light, and for the first time since Thomas was born, she allowed herself to imagine a future that wasn't defined by desperation. James helped her into his wagon, his movements gentle and respectful. As they drove through the dusty streets of Millbrook and out into the open countryside, he told her about his ranch, the horses he raised, the small garden behind the house, the mountains visible in the distance on clear days. I want you to know, he said as they rolled along the dirt road, you can leave anytime you want. If you decide the ranch isn't right for you, or if you want to move on to something else, I'll help you get wherever you need to go. Sarah looked down at baby Thomas, who was awake now and gazing up at her with bright, curious eyes. Then she looked out at the vast expanse of prairie stretching endlessly under the big sky. Somewhere in that golden landscape was a new beginning, a chance to build the life she had dreamed of for her son. Thank you, she said quietly, for giving us a choice. James nodded, his eyes focused on the road ahead. Everyone deserves a choice, Sarah. Everyone deserves freedom. As the wagon rolled on toward the Mitchell Ranch, carrying them toward an uncertain but hopeful future, the dust settled behind them in the fading light, and the town square grew quiet once more. But something had changed in that dusty square that day. A moment of compassion had altered two lives forever, proving that sometimes the greatest gift one person can give another is simply the chance to be free.